Okay. Final next week. This is the full-length practice final. A few of the questions on here are not applicable for our class, but I'm still just going to speed run through this entire thing. You should have done this on your own and are checking your work, or you're stuck somewhere and you're checking how to do something. Either one's fine, or you're just looking for curiosity. So, my name is Key. Hurrah. This is asking keyboard recognition plus octave number. When it says C4, that literally means as we count up the keyboard, how many C's are there. And so if this is C4, then this would be C3, this would be C5, and that would be C6. Anything from here to here is a 3, anything from here to here is a 4, etc. So when we go back here and we see a G, this is a G less than 3, G2. Excuse me. A3, right, because it's in the 3 octave. This will be B4, because it's the 4 octave. There's nothing in the 5, 6, so this is D6, right there. C sharp 6, remember that this is C4, that's C5, so C6 is right there, and sharp, like that, right there. D flat 2, remember this is C4, this is C3, so D flat 2 will be the one below it, down there. Okay. Alto clef, well, that would mean that that's C4, so if we want an E, it's going to be below this one right here, right? So that's right there. Remember, alto clef, quick thing, if it looks like a in treble clef, then it's one more, or I can go backwards and then double sharp right there. Same thing here, that's a C4 right there. That's what these C clefs point to, middle C. And so G would be down here, right? Double flat, just 2 flats. Okay, moving on. This is just anatomy stuff. So if I want to change a major triad into a minor triad, I lower the 3rd. That's that one right there. So the answer is B. If I want to change a major triad into an augmented triad, I got to raise the 5th. So C. If I want to change a minor triad into a diminished triad, I got to lower the 5th. There's lower the 5th. D. Right there. If I want to change a minor triad into a major triad, I have to raise the 5th, or sorry, the 3rd, which is right there. And if I want to change diminished into a major, I've got to raise the 5th, and then I've got to raise the 3rd, because 5th would make it minor, and then 3rd would make it major again. So raise the 5th and the 3rd right there. Okay. It's got nothing to do with parallelogram, that's for fun. All right, and then here, complete the following statements related to intervals. Okay, well, if I take a major interval and invert the resulting interval, that means that if I take this note up here, right, if it was, that's what inverting is, taking one note and either putting it above the other or taking this note here and putting it down below, so it would be like that, right? The resulting interval is minor. Okay, if a perfect interval is inverted, it stays perfect. This is just sort of like information to prime your mind for identifying intervals in the next question. Diminished interval is inverted, it becomes augmented. There are how many semitones in a major 7th? Well, there's 12 in an octave, and a major 7 is 1 less than that, so 11. When an interval's number, inversions interval are added, the sum is always 9, meaning that if I have a 7th right here, like this, and I invert it up to there, this will be a 2nd. They equal 9 always. All right, 2nd page. It's just asking you to identify intervals. So this is a perfect 4th. If you're looking for the quick way to do this, we learned that all triads except for diminished triads are perfect 5ths. So if we inverted this, that would be a perfect 5th. So back down the other way, perfect stays perfect is a 4th. This is, take away these, C to B, flatting both of them keeps the distance the same, so that's a major 7. I think the challenge with these ones, of course, is if you don't know how to read the clef very well, but that's a B flat, right? This is an F sharp. Basically, if you went B flat D F, that would be a perfect 5th from a major chord, sharp again, so this is going to be an augmented 5th. You can also do +5 if you like. This is a B, this is a D, so B, D sharp, F sharp would make a B major triad. This is a major third from there, so this is a major third. And then here I have an F here and I have an F sharp down below. Remember, if you have an octave and you make it shrunk up, it's a perfect interval to begin with. Perfect intervals immediately become diminished octave, right? Or you can use the degree sign, either way. Okay. It says complete this circle of fifths diagram. This is just an efficient way to make sure you know what key and scale has all the different sharps and flats in it. So one sharp scale is G major or E minor. Minor's on the inside, right? D major, B minor, A major, F sharp minor. And if you're good at calculating perfect fifths, you've noticed that we're going around up through fifths this way and down through this way. So E, and this would be C sharp minor, right? And then because we get to here, we can have two. You'll see that there's two sets here, right? So this can be B major, right? It can also be, well, I'll put this on the right side, B major for that one right there. It can also be C flat major, right? So this would be G sharp minor or A flat minor. Okay, this one's already done for us. Let's go around this way just so you have the same process with flats. We could, we could say, look, this is C sharp major and that's D flat major and do all that. But let's just go this way for right now. F major has one flat, D minor, right? B flat major, right? G minor, right? This will be E flat major. This will be C minor. This will be A flat major, F minor, right? And then D flat major will become B flat minor, and C sharp will become A sharp. It's just all those scale summary tests that we've done put into a circle of fifths diagram. All right, page 3, chord anatomy. So, if I have a minor seventh chord, the seventh quality is a minor 7, and the triad quality is a minor triad, right? And D chords, E chords, and A chords, if you spell them with no sharps or flats, are automatically that already. Major 7 chords have a major 7th on top from root to 7th, and they have a major triad down below. This is the table that we learned in class. And C chords and F chords, if you go C, E, G, B, or F, A, C, B, E, those are the ones that are that way. Diminished 7 has a diminished 7th, right? And a diminished, I'll write it out, diminished triad. Same thing, whether it's a symbol or that. And this is a surprise. There's no possible chord that can be spelled without accidentals that makes a diminished 7 chord. Half diminished 7th chord, however, minor 7th and a diminished triad, sometimes called the minor 7 flat 5. This is your B chord. If you're doing your math, then you know that this is the G chord. It's got a major triad. It's your dominant chord and a minor 7th. Okay, it's different from the order you have it on the table because we're not trying to just only read, sort of like have you go back from muscle memory from the table. You got to think through and say which one is it. Okay, 7th chord qualities and in major keys and in minor keys. So in the major key, your chords are tonic is the first one. This is actually priming you to do other things in the test too, but it's basic information you should know. So a minor 7th chord, right? And another minor 7th chord. And if you're trying to go like, how do I know these quickly? Well, if you put yourself in the key of C major and spell out all these white note chords, you'll see that this is be my C major chord 7th, right? And then my D minor 7 chord, and my E minor 7 chord. F would be this one right here, which would be major 7 again. And my dominant chord will be G, right? So that would be a dominant 7th chord. Sort of redundant because it's in the name. This will be a minor 7th chord. And this one will be a half diminished 7 chord. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes the symbol for this is also just a struck through. degree sign like that, okay? For minor keys, it's better just to memorize this, but you can also think of these as all shifted. Minor 7 chord. This is a half diminished 7 chord. This is a major 7 chord. This is the relative major, right? Major 7th chord. This is a minor 7th chord. Okay, I don't know why I gave you that one, but we did. Submediant is going to be major 7th, right? This is dominant because we're using the harmonic minor. It raises the third of this chord. And then this is the fully diminished 7th chord right there. Okay, what quality is the subtonic? Remember, subtonic is the whole step down. It's from the natural minor scale, right? And that's a dominant 7 chord if you have just plain old 7 not altered. These are just to help us make sure that we understand the difference between natural minor scales and then harmonic minors, melodic minors going up and melodic minors going down. So the melodic minor ascending, you take your natural minor scale and you raise 6 and 7, or you could just, you know, write the parallel major and then lower the third. Because these ones are the hard ones, G sharps and D sharps, there's no exact parallel major to do, but you can still think of it. Like, I'll show you what I mean. So if we know that that melodic minor ascending is like a major scale, except 3 is lowered, you could do that, but there is no G sharp major scale, but we can still do this by making a G minor scale. So we're gonna go just make a G scale, doesn't matter what kind, right? Of course, you'd have your G up here for 8 again, right? And then you say, well, if it's a major scale, there it is, and then to make it melodic minor ascending, I lower that. But this is a G melodic minor ascending, so we're just gonna sharp everything. Now, you should have done this enough in your lifetime that you just know it with going through all those steps. But if you're going, how do I remember this for the final? So G sharp, A sharp, B, that's my lower third, C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, and then F double sharp, right? Raise 6 and 7, okay? Melodic minor descending is the same as a plain old natural minor, so it means we're gonna have to lower our 6 and our 7 back from this again. So G sharp, A sharp, there's my lowered third to make it minor, C sharp, D sharp, and then this will just be plain old E, and that'll be F sharp. All right. Okay. D sharp harmonic. It's a natural minor scale. You raise a 7, or it's a parallel major, and then you lower 3 and 6. Right. Since there's no D sharp major scale to go through, I will make myself, again, you just have this memorized eventually if you persist long enough. But if you don't know it, you could make yourself a major scale, right? And then you could say, I have to lower 3, 6, and 7, or 3 and 6, right, to make it harmonic minor. So that would get rid of that, and that would get rid of that. But then I have to sharp everything as well, right? Sorry, 3 and 6. So then I'd sharp, and I'd sharp, I'm sorry, 6, not 7, right? And I'd sharp, and I'd sharp, and I'd sharp, and then I would sharp, which cancels that out, and then I'd sharp, which double sharps that. So we end up with D sharp, E sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, the lowered 6 to make it minor, and lowered 3 right there, right? B, and then C double sharp. All right, moving on. Boy, I put that on camera. Maybe it wasn't. I'll hold it right there for a second. Okay. Going on. Complete the following progression statements. Depending on the term, we may or may not have gotten to this. Sometimes we go sideways and do some other things like arranging and things. So this could be on a first term final, or it could be at the beginning of second term. Depends on the textbook and the chapters we're doing at the time. But this is like a chord can go to what? So a tonic chord or one chord can go to something, anything. Supertonic chord really loves to go to dominance, right? A dominant chord really likes to go to tonic. Basic function right there. If a dominant chord does not is not followed by the most likely chord, tonic, is sometimes followed by a submediant. It could go to other chords as well, but this is the most normal sort of alternative. A submediant chord, this is 6, remember, can go to what? It likes to go downstream to, if it's not a dominant chord, to a sub dominant. That's your 4 chord. or a supertonic, which is your 2 chord, right? These are our favorite sort of progressions. And then subdominant 4, it can go to a 5 chord, so dominant. It can also go to a 1 chord because it's allowed to. And then it can usually, if it doesn't want to do that, it'll go to the 2 chord supertonic as well. Doesn't matter what order you put these in on this test. A what chord is sometimes used as a substitute for the dominant chord? That would be the leading tone. Doesn't matter if you're in major or minor. Sometimes the leading tone 7 chord can be used as a substitute. The something chord is rarely used in major, but often used. That would be the mediant, the 3 chord. Sort of not used a ton in the major key, but it's used a lot in minor because that's the relative major, and that's a strong relationship between keys right there, a gateway for that. In minor keys, the subtonic. This is the lowered 7 one that's a dominant. In fact, this makes the 5/7 of the 3 in minor. All right, going on. It says spell the following 7th chords. So you have to know what scale degree these names mean, and you have to be able to spell the key and then know what quality chord it would be there and spell it. It's actually really condensed and difficult for a first-year student just because you've worked all term to learn these things, but it's hard to bring them all together. Okay, subtonic is flat 7 or a whole step below tonic in B minor, so that would be an A, and it's a dominant 7 chord, so it would be A, C sharp, E, and G, right? A dominant 7. Subdominant means 4 in E flat minor. It's going to be a minor 7 chord, so 4 in E flat minor is A flat minor, which is going to be A flat, C flat, E flat, and G flat, right? Dominant, so I'm going to put these symbols here. This is a flat dominant 7. This is a minor 4/7. Dominant in the key of D sharp minor. It's going to be on A sharp. It's going to be a dominant chord, 5/7. So we're going to have A sharp, C sharp, double sharp, E sharp, and then G sharp, right? Major triad, minor 7th, right? Supertonic in the key of G sharp minor. There's a theme going on here. It's can you tell all the difference between these? Supertonic and G sharp would be a 2 chord, which would be an A sharp chord. This is going to be a half diminished 7 because it's 2 in minor. So A sharp, C sharp, E. There's my diminished chord, and then my minor 7th right there. Submediant in F sharp minor. That'd be my 6th chord right there, yes? So that's going to be D sharp to start with. And 6 chords are, oops, I lied, sorry, just D. Are major, because I'm in minor, major 7s, right? So D sharp, F sharp, A, C sharp, major triad, major 7. Tonic in B flat minor. Well, that's just going to be a 1 minor 7 chord in B flat minor, right? So B flat, D flat, F, A flat. Some people have problems spelling B flat chords. Mediant in A flat minor, well, it's going to be my C flat chord. It's going to be a 3 major 7. Got to calculate that correctly. And then C flat, E flat, G flat, B flat. Okay. Page 4. This is one that for the length of the video we're not going to do. This is definitely not on your final, but I'll explain one of these and then I won't do them all just for sake of the time in the video. Okay, it says identify these chords, then name the keys and functions it could have. So for instance, if I look at this, it's not a G chord, it's not an E chord, it is an A chord because it's A, C sharp, E, and G sharp, right? Okay, so you have to figure out which one's the root, and then you look and go major triad, major 7. This is an A major 7 chord. Okay, now it says where can it be? Now remember, and this goes back to the quality of the chords in different keys, that a major 7 chord could be a 1 major 7 in a key, major key. It could be a 4 major 7 in a key. It could also be the 3 chord in a minor key, and it could also be the 6 chord in a minor key, right? So it could be 1 in the key of A major, right? It could be 4 in the key of, think backwards, right? It's going to be 4 in the key of E major, right? Because that's the 4th scale degree. And then if A was the 3rd scale degree in a minor, that would be F sharp minor, right? Key, scale. And if it was the 6th note in the key, right, then you have to think backwards through that and say, well, what key am I in right now? And that would be C sharp minor. So you have to be able to locate scale degrees and keys accurately, and you have to know what, chord function, quality the chord functions are on different scale degrees as well. Okay. We've been doing this in classes, and this is an ongoing thing that we do again and again at the end of every term. I think in this specific term, you have had tables that have made you do this. I'm not going to include this on the final. It's laborious in first term. By the time we get to second and third term, we'll be doing this quite regularly, and that means that whenever you see a chord, you see its multiple possible uses in major and minor keys quickly, and you can identify where those things are as well. Honestly, it's something that doesn't get taught enough until you get, people that are really great musicians, especially jazz musicians, think like this, right? So, okay, moving on. This is getting us ready for analysis. So it says, true or false, typically we can find 1 and 5 chords at the beginnings and end of phrases. That's true. This is all priming you to remember the principles of analysis, okay? When we're determining the key of a piece, what should we consider? Well, we should see is the key in major or minor or major, but how will we know what will help us? First off, the 1 and the 5 chords will match either the major key or the minor key. That's true. And if it's in the minor key, right, then we'll see the leading tone raised up as an accidental in the scale, right? Like if I go A minor, I've got A, B, C, D, E, F, and G in the scale. But a lot of times we'll see the G sharp added, not in the key signature, but as an accidental when we make our 5s and our 7s. So we look for that as well. It also sounds minor. You should listen to your music and go, yeah, so I guess the answer is all of the above. Surprise, I'm not trying to trick you with false information. I'm trying to make you remember the principles of this. Okay, while all structures of music can help us understand the chords of the piece, which 3 of the following choices often contain the most information about the chords of the piece? In other words, where do we look for chords? How do we know when we're, where we say this is a chord and this is the end of the chords, or what's the most important things? Arpeggios often show chords. Stack notes often show the chords. The lower notes often show what's most important because low notes control our perception of harmony, and most of the chords in the bass line, lowest line, are going to be chord tones, right? The ones above. Not 100% on all these things, but if I had to choose, I'd remember these 3 things. Okay, in jazz, what chord is often paired and precedes the 5 chord? That would be the supertonic. That would be like a 2 chord right there. If you see a minor 7 chord, what will likely follow it? It's the same thing as this. It's a 5 chord that's coming up next, right? And what if it's a minor 7 flat 5? Well, 2 half diminished 7 means that it's 2 supertonic in minor. Goes back to remembering that in a major key, the 2 chord is minor 7, and in a minor key, it's half diminished 7. All right, and then it says, go ahead and analyze these things. Okay, so I think that if this were a real test, I would definitely be making you listen to the music. And I guess I could sort of turn sideways and plunk this out a little bit. You've got this. It goes. And what we're doing here is we're trying to analyze the likely keys that each one of these things. It's going from 1 to 4, but it has little mini key structures in there. So we get to here, and it's A minor 7 flat 5, and to the D7, right? And then we have our G minor 7. C7, and sorry, I'm looking back and forth to the music and the piano. There we go. And then we're to down. Then we get to our 4 chord. And then it keeps going like that. Okay. Here's the trick. Whenever you find a dominant chord in jazz, presume that it's the 5 chord. Unless it's tritone substitute, but that's later. Basic structure. So we see this, and we presume I'm probably in the key of G minor or G major. But since this here is my 2 in G minor, this is a 2 half diminished 7 and a 5/7 in G minor, right? And then what happens is when it arrives on the G minor, right? You see there's another dominant chord here, C7. It sort of pivots on this. It's like the 1, because this would have been my 1 chord in this key, right? Actually begins another 2 chord progress. This would be my 5 chord right there. And if I look at this, I say, well, C7 is 5 of, key of F, right? So this would be my in F, right? Major, because the G minor chord is the 2 in F major, and then the 5 right there. And then we go psych. Instead of a 1 chord right here, it's like, nope. This is another minor 7 chord, right? And this will be my 5/7 right there. And that will put me in the key of E flat, which is where I'm approaching right there. So it's a little sequence of 2/5. So here, 2/5, right? And then 2/5 sequence, right? Every time we land on the 1, instead we make it the 2 for the next thing. So then here becomes the 2 for the next thing, and then there, right? And then this targets us to my 4 chord, right? Okay. Classical music. I think this is a completely made up thing. It's not attributed to a composer. I probably whipped this up. This is an old practice final. So we have to look and say, is this in A flat major or F minor, right? So first off, we can listen to it, right? It's like, sounds minor to me already, right? Right, right. And then, sorry, I'm looking over my shoulder. And then down here, down, right. Yeah, it's definitely minor, okay? And that means that if we're in F minor, we should be thinking to find a lot of F minor chords, right? Because that's my 1 chord. And so F's, A flats, and C's should be prominent. And that's my 1 chord. And then if I have a 5 or a 5/7, it's going to be a C, E natural, G, B flat. And that E natural is going to show up as an accidental. You see it right there, right? See it right there? Sometimes you can just have accidentals that don't mean anything for the key of the chords. For the flavor, though, it's important. And then the way we do our figured bass, because we're looking for key, chords, and figured bass, is that the first note in any set is the one we're going to key off of and say, that's it right there. There are, and it's pre-done for us, right? So, for instance, we're going to look at all these notes right here and say, what's that chord? F, A flat, C, it's all F, A flat, C. It's a 1 chord, right? Because the first note in the grouping of the first one of these things in the left hand, the lowest note here, is the root of the chord, then it would be a figure bass of a 5/3, but that's the long hand. When we see a root position chord like that, we just don't write anything. So 1 chord, okay? Here we have C, E, G, B flat. Now, technically that's a 1/9 of the chord, but we're just going to ignore it. Sometimes there's notes in here that don't fit the chord. They can be non-chord tones. Sometimes they can be stacking them higher. Generally speaking, though, we're just going to presume they're non-chord tones. 9ths have a specific way of resolving, and since this just resolves inside the chord structure rather than to another part of the next chord, we're thinking of it as a non-chord tone, right? It would be an appoggiatura where it skips in and steps out. But we have C, E, G, B flat. The other notes are all redundant. This is not part of the chord. So this is a 5 chord. Now it's a 5/7 because we have that right there. But because the 3rd is the first note here, then we have to use 6/5 for the figured bass. Okay. Here we have another 1 chord right there. F, A flat, C. This is non-chord tone. I think in one of our classes we said, do you remember Sesame Street where they put 4 things on television screens? Like one of these things is not like the other, one of these things is kind of the same, or 3 of these things are kind of the same. Sometimes you get notes that are just not part of the chord. don't get confused. Look at your key that you're in for most common chords and progressions that make sense. And then also remember that the lower notes and things that make arpeggios or block chords and stuff really tell us more about the harmony. It's kind of like if you strummed a chord on the guitar or ukulele, you could sing notes that were in that chord or not in that chord, and the ones that were in the chord were fine, and the other ones would sort of fight against and create tension, but it doesn't change the chord. So because this is here, because we're coming from a 5 chord, because it's, it's making the F chord is clearly a 1 chord right that. This is also a continuation of this, F, A flat, C. That just means that's not part of the chord right there, okay? But the third's in the bass now, so we have to put a 6 because it's a triad with the third in the bass, okay? Here, well, I'm gonna just presume that's not part of the chord. It has nothing to do with this, right? You can see that this is a G, B flat, D, G, B flat, D, G minor chord, right? This is a flavor note right there. So G minor in this key, actually G diminished because of D flat, right, will be my 2 diminished. And G, B flat, D, well, this is the third of the chord, so I have to put a 6 right there, okay? Here I have an F chord, F, A, C, F, right? So it's a 1 chord. It's got the 5th in the bass, 6, 4. Later we're going to learn that we bracket these and call this all dominant, but for right now, you don't have to worry about that in the first term. This is a C, E, B flat, and C. It's a 5-7 chord. It's in root position. This tells us this. There's an invisible 5-3 there. We don't write. I know there's no G, but that's like, I don't know. It's like how much of a picture of a dinosaur do you have to draw before you go, it's a dinosaur, right? It's like you don't have to have every single thing there. Position, function, enough of the chord tells you that it's a 5-7 chord. Here we have a 1 chord right here. F, A flat, C. It's just got the, like that right there. And then this is the root position, like that. There it is. Okay. I believe in another one that I gave out recently, there was an extra page. I'm just going to do as a bonus page. Meter, we're not going to do rebarring. Do you know what rests look like instead of just the notes? Sometimes students overlook that and never learn to draw. They know this is a 16th note, but they don't know how to draw the rest. They don't know the difference between a half note rest and a whole note rest, right? Think of a half note rest as a hat note rest. It looks like a, right? Looks like a hat. And think of the whole note rest as a hole in the ground note rest, right? Looks more like a hole as opposed to a hole. I can help you with that. All right, let's do figured bass. It says the simple version of figured bass numbers for the following chords and inversions. We don't do anything if the, I tried with 5th, 6, 4, 7. 7 in the bass with 7 in the bass is a 2 or a 4-2. Sometimes you get either one of those. Try with a 3rd in the bass. 7th chord with a 5th in the bass. Try with the root in the bass. We don't do anything. 7 with 3rd in the bass like this. So you have to remember that we do nothing for a root position triad. We do a 6, and you do a 6-4 for, like, this is root in the bass, 3rd in the bass, 5th in the bass, right? And then there's a great way to remember the 7th. You go 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, or sometimes 4, 2, right? And this is root of a 7th chord. These are 7th chords, right? 3rd in the bass, 5th in the bass, 7th in the bass. So you can just count down like that. All right. The meter thing. So what are meters interpreted as, compound or simple, and then what gets a beat, what doesn't get a beat, and how many beats are in them. So remember that compound meters always have 3 divisions of the beat. They combine together and make a dotted note. And simple time signatures, or the beat divisions, are always 2 that combine into a note that's not a dot, right? So let's just figure this out to begin with. If 2 of these divisions of the beat makes a beat, then your beat value is going to be that. Now, if I say that there's 2 beats and that's the beat value, you say 2 on top and 8 on the bottom. And we call this simple duple because it's simple time signature, right? Divides into 2 parts, the beat, and it's duple because there's 2 beats, okay? All right, the rest of these are compound. I can tell, well, no, that's not true. This is simple, so let's do this again. 4 beats, you're gonna put the 4 on top. If the beat value is the bottom note here, so that's an 8th note. So these are also going to be 16th notes when you divide them up. But 4 is quadruple, right? Quadruple. All right. These ones are compound. I know this because the beat's got a dot, and the division of the beat's divided into 3, and this has got a multiple of 3 for the top right there. So let's do this one first. Combine the beat division together. 2 quarter notes and another quarter note makes the dot a half note, right? If it's triple, then it has 3 beats in the measure, right? This is compound because we already know that the beats are dividing into 3, right? Compound. There we go. So the thing here is, how do we write this? And remember that this represents the number of beats and what gets a beat when it's simple, but when you're in compound, the bottom number tells you how many divisions of the beat, and then you have to multiply this by 3, like the number of beats by 3, so 9, 4, okay? All right, take this and explode it out. We have 3 half notes, okay? Remember that the top number tells you how many of those are in a beat, and the bottom number tells you what those are. So this is a 6/2 time signature, right? 6 divides by 3 to equal 2 beats per measure, right? So this would be compound duple. I'm not going to take the time to explain all of that why here. You need to go back and look at either lecture videos or read the part in your textbook on compound meter again. Okay, but those are the answers right there. All right, that's it. Final next week. Hopefully that was good for some people and useful.